I recently went through something no husband should ever have to face. Our house was burned to the ground in the middle of the night, and it was done by HOA enforcers. Their stated reason? A solar-powered motion light. But the real reason? Pure jealousy. The funny thing is, the only one who ended up in the dirt was Karen after my wife was through with her. Let me back up and tell you how it all started. Before we get into this, hit that like button if you want to hear more crazy stories. I've been in car crashes, I've been blindsided with a punch, but nothing hits you like waking up to your house on fire and realizing someone did it on purpose. The air hit me first, thick and hot, like trying to breathe through a handful of insulation. I sat up coughing, my eyes struggling against the orange glow bleeding in under the door. It wasn't a warm, cozy orange, it was the kind of orange that kills. Then the sound, a sharp, hollow crack, like a wall snapping in half. I was out of bed and down the hallway in seconds, yelling, "Olivia!" Her door was already ajar, smoke curling through the gap like it had somewhere important to be. She was huddled in the corner, a flashlight clutched in both hands, the one Mia gave her for her 5th birthday, not some cheap plastic thing. Olivia called it her beacon. She looked up at me and whispered, "It's the backyard. I think they're here." I didn't need to ask who they were. I just grabbed her, wrapped her in my arms, and ran. The living room was already engulfed in flames, the curtains gone, the fire licking at the couch like it was dinner. I shoved through the front door with my shoulder, nearly tripping on the threshold. Outside, it was chaos. Flames on all 4 sides of the house, the 4 corners too perfect to be random. Then I saw them across the street, 3 figures in tactical vests and black boots. No badges, no panic, just standing there with their arms folded, watching. One of them held up a phone and started filming. "Are they recording us?" Olivia asked, her voice shaking. I didn't answer. My eyes were glued to the front door. "Mia!" I yelled. "Nothing." Olivia clutched my shirt tighter. She'd told me not to run back in, said, "If this ever happened, I'm not leaving her." I snapped then. The door opened, and Mia walked out like the fire wasn't even there. Her boots were charred, her shirt ripped at the sleeve, and her face was streaked with ash, but she moved like it was just another Tuesday. She wasn't carrying photos, clothes, or documents, just a black, hard-shelled case, one I hadn't seen in years. "Is that from the basement?" I asked. Mia didn't answer. She dropped to one knee and looked Olivia in the eyes. "Did you breathe in any smoke?" Olivia shook her head. "Good. Did you grab anything?" Olivia lifted her flashlight. "The beacon?" Mia gave her a quick nod. "That's my girl." Across the street, I saw movement. People were gathering, neighbors in pajamas, some with phones. No one helped, they just stood there like this was a show. And front and center was Karen, perfect posture, pajama set looking like it had just been steamed, clipboard in hand. She looked like someone judging a neighborhood chili cook-off, except we were the ones on fire. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much. I started to move toward her. "Don't," Mia said, cutting me off with a glance. "She's smiling." "I know," I growled. "Look at her. She wants you to lose it. Don't give her the satisfaction." 12 minutes later, the fire trucks arrived, way too late. Our home was just ash and framework. A young officer walked up, casual as anything. "You guys smell gas? Maybe an electrical spark?" Another pointed to the wires near the garage. "These look older. Do they look tactical to you?" I asked, snapping. Mia ignored them completely. Her eyes were locked on the mailbox, still standing untouched, flag up. She walked over, opened it, and inside was a thick manila envelope, unmarked, heavy. She opened it and pulled out a black and white photo. It showed the corner of our front yard, the solar-powered motion light Mia had installed 2 weeks ago, perfectly centered, taken from above. She flipped it over. On the back, in tight, meticulous handwriting, still trying to light up the darkness. "I remember what that cost me." I stepped closer. Do you recognize that? She didn't answer, her hands folding the photo precisely, not shaking, not rushed. It's him, she finally said. He found us. I blinked. You mean? She gave a barely perceptible nod. Rick pulled up right then, his truck coughing smoke, flip-flops on, and a Red Bull in each hand. Okay, he said, stepping out. This is not what I expected when you said bad HOA drama. Then he saw the case. Oh, come on. You brought that out? Had to, I muttered. Rick looked between us. So, this was a warning? Mia stared at the smoldering structure behind us. No, she said. This was the signal. I followed her gaze to the crowd of neighbors. Karen was still there, arms crossed now, watching. I took a step toward her again, but this time Mia didn't stop me because Karen turned her back too fast, too stiff, like she couldn't stand being seen anymore. Whoever sent that envelope wasn't just threatening us, they remembered. And Mia? She never forgot. The first thing we got after the fire wasn't help, wasn't water, wasn't even a knock on the door. It was a violation notice addressed to a pile of ashes that used to be our house. Typed. Folded and hand-delivered, not by mail, but a white-gloved hand slid it into our temporary mailbox like it was a wedding invitation. No salutation, no apology, just bold text and smug formatting. Installation of unauthorized exterior lighting fixture, solar-powered motion light, is in violation of Article C-15, Section B-4. Creates hazardous illumination and undermines community aesthetic cohesion. Remove immediately. I didn't know whether to laugh or report it as a hate crime. Olivia stared at it over my shoulder. They're mad about the light, she said. It survived the fire, I replied. Guess that's the real crime. Mia didn't laugh. She stood at the kitchen island, what was left of it, reading the letter like it was a coded threat. This isn't about a light, she said finally. It's about permission. Permission for what? To see, to be seen, to exist here. That sentence hit me like a punch to the gut. Liam wandered in from the guest room, barefoot, hoodie half-zipped, holding a can of cold brew like it was his lifeline. What now? He asked. I handed him the letter. He read it once, whistled. They're escalating, he muttered. That's recon phrasing, strategic language meant to confuse the target, make you question what you did. You're saying Karen's running a spook op with a homeowners association? I asked. Liam looked at Mia. Wouldn't be the first time someone used paperwork to declare war. Mia said nothing. Olivia piped up, are they going to try again? Mia knelt down. Not yet, but they will. They already are. That night, I went outside to clear my head. The air still smelled like melted insulation. The street was too quiet, and something felt off. Then I saw it. The trash bins were gone, both of them. No pickup scheduled, no neighbors out, just gone. In their place, 2 garden gnomes, identical, facing our house, smiling. I backed up into the house and grabbed Mia. She stepped outside, took one look, and stopped breathing for half a beat. I've seen those before, she said. The gnomes? No, the tactic. She stepped closer. Remove something functional, replace it with something symbolic. A joke, a warning. Okay, I said. So they're not just creepy, they're controlled symbols. Psychological inversion, Liam added. You're saying someone replaced our trash bins to mess with our heads. I'm saying they want us to laugh first so we don't scream later. The next morning, I saw Mr. Henderson, the quiet retiree 2 doors down, standing in his yard. I waved. He didn't wave back. He said, calm as ever. The HOA is doing what it has to. Excuse me, but if someone like her moves in, someone's got to keep order. I took a step toward him, but he was already turning, disappearing behind his door like a scene change. My gut twisted. Back inside, Liam was standing near the porch, holding something. Found this, he said, pulling it off the fence post. Pinned there with a screwdriver was a thick manila envelope. Red sticker across the front, final notice. He opened it carefully. Inside, a black and white photo, Laura's, blurry, but clear enough to see Mia walking across our yard, the motion light blinking on behind her. Underneath, in all caps, "We see what you do at night." Liam looked at me. "They're not watching us, they're watching her." Olivia walked in behind us, read the paper, then asked, "Why would they take pictures of Mom?" I didn't answer. Later that night, I found Mia sitting in the garage with her back against the wall. The black case sat beside her like a dog that only bites on command. "You okay?" I asked. She didn't look at me. "Why now?" I shrugged. "Because we pushed back." "No," she said quietly. "Because I stopped running." She slid something toward me, another envelope. Inside, a photo, older, weather-worn. Mia in full uniform, middle of the desert, a blurred-out figure standing beside her, tall, half-shadowed. On the back, in faded black ink, "We all burn eventually." I looked up. "Who is this? I don't recognize him." Then she said, "But I do now." Liam came in holding his phone like it had just bit him. "You guys need to see this." He pulled up a video from the HOA's private network. Karen's voice filled the room. "This community must be protected from destabilizing elements. Surveillance is in place. Enforcement will escalate as needed." The camera panned to her standing in front of a board with our house circled in red marker. In the comment thread, a like from a profile named M. Burnell 98. Mia's voice was calm. "Mason." Liam's eyes widened. "Karen's kid." "Not a kid anymore." I looked at her. "How bad is he?" Mia's lips pressed together. Then finally, "He was dangerous then." "Then he's worse now." Mia turned toward the gnomes, still watching from the yard, then walked back to what remained of our porch. She stood there quietly, one hand brushing the scar behind her right ear, the one from a mission I'd only ever heard described in silence. She looked over her shoulder. "Let them keep watching." I stepped closer. "Why her?" Her voice was flat. "They forgot one thing." I swallowed. "What?" She turned fully. I shoot back. The first fire was noise. The second warning was quiet. But the third? That was coming next, and it wouldn't be made of smoke. You know what's worse than being watched? Realizing they underestimated you. Realizing it started long before you noticed the first lens. We found it in the mailbox, barely bigger than a peanut, tucked inside the hinge under the red flag. Liam popped it out with a flathead screwdriver and turned it over in his fingers. "This is military grade," he muttered. "They didn't buy this on Amazon." Mia didn't say a word, she just turned and walked inside. Olivia stared at the thing like it might blink. "You think they're listening?" she asked. Liam shrugged. "If they are, they're bored. I mostly curse and eat yogurt after midnight." I didn't laugh. By noon, we found 4 more, one in the porch railing, one inside a fake rock, another in the solar panel itself, shielded, fireproof, and custom-built to last. Mia cracked the last one open. "No brand, custom casing, no serial number," she said, almost to herself. "Built to survive." Liam leaned in. "Built to watch you." That night, I found Mia sitting in silence, not reading, not blinking, just listening. "You okay?" I asked. "They're using ghost perimeter protocol," she murmured. My stomach turned. Week 18, Bud's recon net over a mock village, 3 cameras per candidate, never less. But that was draining. She looked at me. Not always. I didn't know what scared me more, the cameras or the fact that she wasn't surprised. The next morning, Olivia came into the kitchen with her war journal. "Dad," she asked, "why did Mom get kicked out of the SEALs?" My blood froze. "Who told you that?" She slid her phone across the counter, an HOA group screenshot. Username HA Citizen, timestamped 3 hours earlier. "Be advised, some residents may have histories that reflect poorly on community safety. Concern about unstable military personnel posing as civilians." Attached was a blurry photo of Mia at the mailbox from yesterday. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much. Liam glanced over, mid-sip of coffee. They're spreading disinfo now. Seriously? Mia entered, read the screen, no reaction. She looked at Olivia. Never believe cowards with clipboards. She deleted the post, handed the phone back, and walked out. I followed her into the garage. She was already opening the black case. I'm tired of playing defense, she said. Inside, night vision goggles, encrypted drives, topographic maps, 2 suppressed pistols, 1 file folder labeled Brunel, M. I froze. Karen's son. She nodded. Mason. You had a file on him. I started it after Jordan. He wasn't just a washout. She handed me a photo, 2 figures in desert gear, Mia young, coiled like a spring, next to her Mason, narrow shoulders, sharp eyes, faint smirk. He didn't make it. Failed out before SQT, but he was smart and angry. Liam walked in with a jerky bag. So Karen's kid has a tactical complex? Mia grabbed a marker and circled 3 houses on a printed map. Recon triangle. Passive surveillance. He's mimicking a forward operating base. Liam whistled. And I thought my neighbors sucked. Outside, the gnomes were still there, unmoving, watching. Olivia walked in, yawning. She looked at Mia. So, are we in a war or not? Mia nodded once. Olivia didn't flinch. She wrote something in her journal. What did you write? I asked. If they're watching, she said, might as well give them something cool to read. Liam chuckled. Kids got style. I didn't smile. Mia stared at the gnome. You ever hear of eyes that disappear? I blinked. IR reflective optics. Invisible to the naked eye. You could stand 10 feet away and miss them. You think we're being watched right now? She pointed. I think we never stopped. That night, nobody slept. Mia sat with maps, marking entry points. Olivia curled up on the floor beneath the kitchen table, and I sat by the door, holding the case like it meant something. I wasn't trained, I was just a dad trying to hold the flashlight steady while the world closed in. At 3:11 a.m., Mia said, he's logging our patterns. What does that mean? He's building an operational model of us. For what? She looked up. Extraction or insertion? Liam's face fell. He's prepping an op. Mia nodded. I stood. He's not just playing house, he's planning to breach it. Olivia stirred. Can we stop him? Mia knelt beside her. We're not stopping him. We're showing him what happens when you pick the wrong house to watch. That's when it hit me, we weren't being spied on, we were being studied. And Mia? She was already planning how to end the test. You ever hear someone relive a war? They don't talk about it, it doesn't sound like a story. It sounds like a scar tearing open in real time. That's what it was like listening to Mia that night. Rain tapped the gutters in a soft rhythm. The gnomes were still watching from the yard. And Mia? She had her war file open like a confession. It was week 9 of qualification, pre-deployment rotation, desert simulation, hot weather op. She didn't say combat, just hop, but the word still landed like a bullet. Mason wasn't supposed to be there, she added. Liam looked up. Wait, Karen's son? Mia nodded. Failed twice, protected by donors, still showed up. And they let him join. They didn't let him, he forced it. She tapped the map. Contact simulation. He left his squad, broke Firewatch protocol, entered a hot breach zone. I leaned forward. Why? Because I was in it. The garage went. Silent Mason thought if he pulled me out, they'd forgive everything else. But he didn't know I was already X-filing. What happened? Liam asked. Live rounds, Mia said flatly. Friendly fire. Sabotage him. Her eyes hardened. I heard the bullet before I saw the blood. And just like that, her mind wasn't here anymore. She was back in that alley, in the heat, in the noise. The way she spoke changed, shorter, sharper, like she was watching it all over again. First round hit a steel pipe, echoed like thunder. Second one hit something softer. He dropped, arms flailing, turned midair before he hit the dirt hard. I cleared the left, called the fallback code. Then I saw him bleeding, face torn, breathing like it hurt. Her voice caught for just a second. He looked at me, one eye gone, but the other still locked on mine, like he wanted to ask, "Why didn't you stop this?" She blinked once. I almost did. I almost froze. But I couldn't. If I had, it would have gotten 2 more killed. Liam broke the silence. "That's a hell of a choice." "It wasn't a choice," she said. "It was protocol. That's what makes it worse." Then she pulled out a photo, her mid-op rifle slung low, hands bloodied, and behind her through the haze, Mason, his face nearly gone. I stared at it, and in that moment, I didn't see my wife, I saw someone forged in fire, someone who didn't just survive, she had to carry the consequences out with her. "You didn't recognize him?" I asked. "Not with what was left," she replied. "They pulled him out," she added. "No debrief, no media, just silence." "And you never heard from him again?" She shook her head. "Until now." Liam leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "Black Deer testing ops. They don't require perfect faces, just perfect memory." She flipped open a file labeled Brunel, M. Scotch data harvesting. Surveillance. The kind of work that turns people into shadows. And suddenly, I understood something I hadn't let myself admit. Mia hadn't just trained to survive, she'd trained to walk away from people who didn't. I'd always known she was strong, precise, tactical, unstoppable. But now I saw the part I hadn't wanted to, the part that still lived in that alley, the part that buried guilt so deep she didn't bleed, she calcified. "He thinks you left him. He's not wrong," she said. I froze. "You let him get hurt?" "I let the mission run. And the mission didn't include pulling someone who broke protocol." That line sat there, cold and final. Then Olivia's voice came in, small and clear. "Is that why you never told us you were the first?" We turned. Mia looked stunned, not at the question, but that it had come from her. "I didn't tell you because being the first wasn't the point," she said. "Surviving was." Olivia stared. "But surviving made you a target." Mia nodded, then looked at me. "He's not here for revenge, he's here to rewrite history." Liam tapped the folder. "So what's his plan?" "Push us out," she said. "Frame us as dangerous. Force isolation. Then strike. And us?" "We don't isolate," she said. "We bait him." Olivia curled up on the edge of the couch, hugging her journal. "Mom," she asked softly. Mia walked over, knelt beside her. "I'm not scared of him," Olivia whispered. "I'm scared of what you'll do." Mia didn't answer right away, but in that moment, brief as it was, something cracked. Not regret, not weakness, just gravity. Then she kissed Olivia's forehead. "Don't be scared of that." She looked back at me. "Be scared of what happens if I don't." That was the night I saw it, not the operator, not the soldier, the strategist. Because if Mason Burnell wanted a war, he just got drafted into hers. We stopped sleeping that week, not because of fear, but because we had work to do. Mia ran point, I managed logistics, Liam handled hardware, Olivia and I recon, journaling everything like a war correspondent. We didn't talk about the fire, didn't talk about the letters, didn't talk about guilt, we just moved like a unit. Mia had maps covering the garage wall, red threads between rooftops. She stood like she'd never left the field, like the suburbs were just another combat zone with worse landscaping. She pointed at a dot near the edge of our property. "This is where we drop the decoy," she said. "Right past the gnome line. Gives him a narrow strike corridor, forces movement. Movement equals exposure." Liam nodded. "Classic." He gestured to another pin. "What's this one?" "Audio loop," Mia said. "Domestic ambient noise. Routine chatter, pacing, conflict." Liam raised a brow. "So we're luring him in with fake family drama?" "It's what he studies," she said. "Give him what he thinks he knows." I was building the beacon. It looked like a busted humidifier, fake warmth, fluctuating pulse, enough electromagnetic residue to mimic TV static and fridge buzz. Liam walked past me, muttering, "I swear she built half this plan before we even moved in." "What if he doesn't take the bait?" I asked. Mia didn't even blink. He will. It felt wrong and right, like building a bomb out of childhood memories. Olivia was the one who spotted him first. She called it from Liam's attic, thermal scope steady like bedtime TV. "He's moving," she said calmly. "South side, west to east arc, 30 meters from the beacon." Mia tossed me the spare headset. "Confirm approach vector," she radioed. 30 meters, low, deliberate pacing, no wobble, Olivia said. I put on the headset, and then I heard it, breathing, soft steps on gravel, a rustle, a gloved hand brushing siding. Then silence. And then, "You shouldn't have stayed." It wasn't Liv, it was a recording, cold, hollow, playing from one of our discarded speakers positioned near the decoy. Liam looked at the feed. No visual, but that speaker wasn't there before. "Misdirection," Mia said. "He's giving us just enough signal to chase." I moved to the front door. Mia blocked me with her arm. "Wait." Olivia came through on the comms again. "Dad, he left something." A pause. "It's on the porch." I opened the door slowly. Small box, brown paper, no string, no note, just placed there. "Do not touch that," Mia whispered behind me. Too late. I crouched, lifted the lid. Inside, a solar light. Our solar light. Clean, untouched, like it had never been burned, never buried in ash, just retrieved. Beneath it, folded paper, block print font, too perfect, "You always loved shining where you didn't belong." Mia read it once, then ripped it in half, no hesitation. "This is personal," she said. "It's always been personal," I muttered. Liam leaned against the wall. "So what's the message here? Sentiment?" "No," Mia said. "It's a warning disguised as nostalgia." "He's not trying to strike," I added. "He's trying to soften the edges." Sarah turned to me. "Or he's testing yours." That was his mistake. He assumed our breaking point was a number. It wasn't, it was a name. So we moved. Mia escalated the plan. We fed him bad data, rewired the beacon to simulate multiple people moving, random heat shifts, light pacing, even a fake cough loop Rick thought was excessive. Olivia rigged motion sensors in the trees to blink every 7 minutes, simulated pacing, a dog, a teen, a tired mother walking the yard. Me? I reprogrammed Karen's sprinkler system. Every night at 3:17 a.m., it fired a 6-second blast right where Mason was last seen. That was Mia's addition. "Corner a predator," she said, and reset the trap. That night, it worked. We watched from the attic. At 3:17 on the dot, the sprinkler hissed, and something bolted from the woods. Too big to be a raccoon, too smooth to be coincidence. Liam rewound the thermal feed. That was him. Mia didn't smile. No. That was him panicking. Then we got bolder. We put the solar light back at the tree line like bait. This time, we embedded a micro-tracker under the glass face. But Mason didn't take it. He destroyed it, shattered it, left the pieces scattered in a semicircle like breadcrumbs. All except one, the lens. On it, a partial print. Liam scanned it through Mia's legacy access. The screen lit up, Mason James Burnell. Active discharged. Undocumented status, redacted. Liam leaned back. The ghost showed his face. "No," Mia whispered. "He wants us to think he did." "I'm just going to say it," I told her. "What if this pushes him too soon?" Mia looked at me. "Then we see him clearly," she said. "Because you only see a ghost when it steps into your flashlight." Olivia spoke from the corner. She'd been quiet all night, watching, listening, thinking. Then softly, "He's waiting for me to look back." Everyone froze. Liam mouthed, "Holy," but didn't finish it. Mia moved fast, stepped beside her. "What makes you say that?" Olivia shrugged. "I don't know. He leaves puzzles in the yard. It's not a threat." Mia nodded slowly. "It's an invitation." We thought baiting the trap put us in control, but Mason wasn't hunting Mia, he was circling her legacy. And if Olivia was the piece he wanted to move first, then we weren't playing chess anymore, we were playing keep away with a ghost. It started with the dog. Or rather, the absence of one. Mrs. Delaney's dog, Archie, usually a non-stop barker, didn't make a sound that morning. Weird, but not enough to panic, until we realized Archie was gone. Leash unhooked, gate unlatched, food bowl untouched. Mia froze when she saw the yard. "He's testing access routes," she said. "You think he took a dog?" I asked. "He took a variable." Liam shuffled in mid-yawn with coffee. "If this guy starts hurting animals—" "He didn't hurt it," Mia cut in. "He needed to know how long it would take for someone to notice." She checked her watch. 46 minutes. That was all it took. 46 minutes for the only living thing between our house and the edge of the woods to disappear. That night, we didn't sleep. Mia adjusted the thermal net, Olivia stayed upstairs sketching layouts, I checked supplies. The air felt already decided, like the house had been marked, and we were just stalling. At 3:04 a.m., we heard the knock. 3 taps, slow, measured, front door. No voice, no footsteps, no motion light, just pressure on wood. Mia grabbed a pistol, I followed. She opened the door fast. No one. Just another box, smaller this time. Liam grabbed it with tongs and dumped it into a bin like it might hiss. Inside, a single item, a piece of chalk, bright pink. Olivia's chalk. Mia held it for a second too long, then walked away. "She keeps that on the back porch," I whispered. Liam scanned the feeds. No breach on that side. In the dining room, facing her maps. Then quietly, he inverted my angles. We swept the house. No forced entry, no open doors, no prints. But in Olivia's room, a toy flashlight propped upright, pointed at the ceiling. Olivia blinked. "I didn't leave it like that." Mia stared at it. "He used it to do what I asked. To prove he could." She scanned the house again, but not for threats, for her own blind spots. We locked everything down, manual overrides, double sensors. But something cracked in Mia. She didn't sleep or trust anything. I caught her at Olivia's door 3 times that night. The only time she spoke the next morning was when Olivia walked in holding a photo printed on cheap paper, Olivia in the backyard, war journal open, flashlight in hand, taken from above. "You said you cleared the roof line," Mia said. "I did," Liam replied. "Then how'd he get that angle?" No one spoke. Olivia didn't panic. She looked at the photo and said, "He's not trying to scare me anymore. He's trying to change me." After that, new plan. We blacked out everything. EMP switch, no Wi-Fi, no phones, nothing electronic near Olivia. We moved in patterns, ate in silence. Olivia stopped writing, started whispering instead. Little fragments, like a soldier trapped in a foxhole. I found her behind the trash can in the kitchen, muttering, "Note, if they take Mom, I run. If they take Dad, I hide. If they take both, I burn the playbook." I didn't stop her because I understood the math, and part of me was doing it too. That night, 2:38 a.m. Every light snapped on, not from inside, but outside. Floodlights, all sides, blinding, silent. Not chaos, control. Mia grabbed her weapon. We checked the feed. Liam called it first. "He's not hiding anymore. He wants you to see what he sees." And then, just as if he'd waited, the Ring camera blinked on. 1 feed, the porch. And there stood Karen, clipboard in hand, reading something, then looked into the camera and mouthed, "Your wife is not well." Then vanished into the dark. The floodlights cut. Silence. Darkness. Olivia whispered, "I think I liked it better when he was invisible." Mia didn't speak. She went into the kitchen and stared at the floor. Then finally, he used my plan. I didn't ask which one because I knew. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much. Before sunrise, Olivia handed me a note, folded, written on the back of a grocery list. "You might need this later," she said. It read, "Would you still be protecting me if this wasn't about Mom?" I folded it, didn't answer. Then Mia walked in, new look in her eye. No panic, no hesitation, just war. "Get your boots," she said. "We finish this." He wasn't just watching anymore, he was directing, writing the story in our own home. And if the only way to win was letting Mia become what she'd sworn off, then whatever came next wouldn't be surveillance, it would be war. It started on a Wednesday. Bright sky, no wind. That weird kind of quiet that only happens when the neighborhood is pretending to be normal. Mia was in the garage with Liam, finalizing security grid adjustments. I was in the shed, reorganizing the manual override box. Olivia had gone for a walk with Mrs. Delaney 2 doors down, her usual midday loop. I remember glancing up. Sunlight hit the pavement just right, not a shadow in sight. It looked like a postcard, but something felt paused, like the whole street was holding its breath. Then I heard the bang. Not a gunshot, heavier, more hollow. Not panic, pressure. Then came the scream. Mrs. Delaney, high, thin, cracking in the back of her throat, like something tore loose inside. I bolted, sprinting barefoot across the pavement. I cleared the yard and rounded the hedges just in time to see Olivia frozen. She was standing 10 feet from the porch, eyes wide, arms shaking, her notebook halfway open. Mrs. Delaney was on the ground. The porch railing had been shredded, wood everywhere, one shutter dangling like a snap trip gauge. "Olivia!" I shouted. "Move back." But she didn't. She was locked in. I ran faster, lifted her like a sandbag, one arm around her ribs, the other hand grabbing Delaney's collar. Mia and Liam were already out the garage door, sprinting. Mia didn't hesitate. Flash charge. That wasn't for people, that was to draw us out. Liam knelt by Delaney. She's alive, maybe concussed. Mia's eyes scanned the scene, then stopped. Sidewalk. Fluorescent orange chalk. Jagged handwriting, wrong house, right message. We move fast. Liam carried Mrs. Delaney into our foyer, careful but quick. Mia slammed the door, deadbolted it, grabbed a metal bar from the umbrella stand, jammed it into place. Olivia, inside. No arguing. Olivia didn't argue. She was silent, still trembling, but her eyes were calculating, like she was watching more than she was feeling. I dropped to one knee in front of her. "You okay?" She nodded. "I think so." "Did you see anything?" "No," she said. "But I heard 2 clicks, then a whistle. Like a cue." Mia cut in. "A detonation signal." Liam looked up. He timed it to her walk by. Now neighbors were outside, phones up, mouths open, nobody coming closer, but everyone watching. Across the street, the HOA president stood stiff-backed, like he was waiting for someone to blame. Liam shut the blinds. No more deniability. Mia scanned the street through the peephole. He's not hiding anymore. He's trying to pull the curtain back. Then came the second hit. Not physical, not loud, just terrifying. In the basement, the offline laptop, the one sealed in a Faraday sleeve, battery dead, hardwired off-grid, blinked on. Olivia was the one who noticed. She tapped my arm. "Dad, it's glowing." I turned to look. The screen was pulsing pale blue. No sound, no boot-up screen, just a message, "Your perimeter's good." "Mine's better." Then a feed. Mia and Olivia standing in the garage, viewed from a new angle, one not covered by any of our cameras. Liam stared at the footage. "Where is that even from?" Mia walked to the corner cabinet, reached behind it. "Nothing. He was here," she said flatly. "Got footage, left no trace." I swallowed hard. "This morning," she nodded. "Right before the walk." Liam added, "The local PD showed up within the hour. So did 2 journalists, one drone, and Karen, now claiming she'd seen suspicious behavior involving military-grade tools. The cops barely looked around, took 3 photos, asked no real questions. One of them pulled me aside. "Just between us, sir, is this some kind of prepper thing?" I didn't answer because what I wanted to say would have guaranteed a lawsuit. That night, Olivia didn't sleep in her room. She pulled a chair next to mine in the living room, sat in silence, then said, "He knew she'd be there. He knew when I'd walk." He knew when she'd pause to let me tie my shoe. I turned to her. How does he know all that? She didn't look away. Because I do that every Wednesday. Her voice cracked. And I think he's been watching longer than we thought. Mia came in from the garage around 2 a.m., sat down, didn't say anything at first. Then she turned to me. Next time he hits, we won't be near it. I didn't ask what she meant because I knew what came next. If she wasn't near the next blast site, then someone else would be. Olivia stood, walked to the coat rack, reached into her shoe, pulled out a small object, chalk, orange. Mia's entire body froze. Where did you get that? Olivia looked tired, not scared, just done. It was in my shoe. He left it today. I don't know. Mia reached forward like she might shatter, then knelt and hugged her tighter than I'd ever seen. Then Olivia whispered, next time, don't wait. Hit first. That was the moment Mia stopped blinking. That was the moment the seal didn't just resurface. She stood up and started counting targets. Because if Mason thought daylight would slow her down, he'd forgotten one thing. She was trained to strike before the world even knew it was a battlefield. There are two kinds of silence in a house at night, the kind that makes you check locks, and the kind that means someone already did. That second one? That's what our house felt like. Mia didn't just wake up the next morning, she deployed. Black pants, pinned hair, not braided, mission mode. She moved like gravity bent toward her. Everything she touched, every drawer she opened, felt deliberate, like it had waited all year just for her hand. She walked into the kitchen, opened the forgotten drawer under the coffee machine, and pulled out a folded, laminated sheet. Liam walked in, took one look, and muttered, "Oh no. She's running the map again." "You sure about this?" I asked. She looked at me like the question insulted her. "I don't do warm-up threats." Then she unrolled the map, 3 circled zones. 1. An abandoned tech warehouse just past the HOA border. 2. A storage shed Karen had converted for HOA use 6 months ago. 3. The radio tower where HOA network traffic was rerouted last fall. She tapped the second one. "Tonight. That's where he's watching from." Liam nodded. "That's a lot of hardware for a HOA." She said nothing. I couldn't stop staring at her hands. They weren't just steady, they were calloused, scarred, functional hands that once carried explosives or bodies or both. I'd always known she was more than me, but that morning, she was more than anyone. Olivia stepped into the room. She must have heard everything. "Let me come," she said. Mia didn't even look up. "No. I can help." "You already have." Olivia crossed her arms. "Then why won't you let me do more?" Mia paused, then turned, not harsh, just done. "Because if you come with me, and he targets you instead of me, I won't hesitate. And if you survive that, you won't forgive it." Olivia's face went pale. She didn't cry. She nodded and walked out. Liam looked at me sideways. I saw her talk like that once in training to an instructor. "What happened?" "She beat him, then carried his gear for the next 3 weeks so no one else would humiliate him." I shook my head. "She's not the same anymore." "No," Liam said. "She's just closer to what she really is." Mia prepped alone. Didn't pace, didn't mutter, just calibrated. At one point, I saw her pause mid-checklist and pick up a chipped garden gnome from behind the paint cans. She turned it over in her hand, didn't say a word, just slipped it in her pocket, like even war deserved reminders. I used to think strength looked like someone standing their ground. Now it looked like a woman who didn't even need to announce she was coming. We left at 02:00 hours, silent exit, no headlights. 3 blocks west, we split. Liam hit the decoy zone, I circled to intercept surveillance. Mia? Mia disappeared. The HOA storage shed was at the edge of a neighborhood too bland to notice, too new to be innocent. Mia ghosted to the door. 1 lock, 1 window, 1 weak point. She didn't hesitate, slipped a micro tool into the frame, popped the latch, and vanished inside. Over comms, I heard soft boots on vinyl, drawer slides, 1 breath. "A nest?" I asked. "No food, No bed, but the signal's active. A mirror, she replied. He's watching us from somewhere else. Outside, I scanned the street. Nothing. Then Liam's voice crackled, "West fence, something moved." And then, on a private line, "Olivia, Dad, I followed you. I stayed back. I had to. I closed my eyes. Olivia, this isn't. Listen. Near the school lot, there's a van. No lights, parked too long. I checked the feed. She was right. There was a man, tall, still half-shadowed under the tree line, watching, not moving, just there. Mia, I whispered. He's outside the school lot." Her answer? "Good." And her calm line went dead. 10 minutes passed. Then a thud. Then another, low, wet, final. I ran past the lot, through the brush, and found her. Mia standing over a man in black, arms zip-tied, face bloodied. Not Mason. One of his proxies. A burner phone lay nearby, screen glowing, unlocked. She handed it to me. The last text was from Mason, confirmed delivery. Package equals Seal's daughter. ETA 0700 hours. Status, sleeping. My fingers dropped the phone. Olivia appeared behind me. She read it, looked at Mia. "Am I the package?" Mia didn't speak. She was already walking. Open loop ending. She wasn't playing defense anymore. She wasn't guarding the perimeter. She wasn't preparing to strike. She was the strike. And Mason? He wasn't ready for what she used to be, because what she was now had nothing left to protect, only something to destroy. We didn't call the police. We didn't wait for backup. We didn't lock the door behind us, because the fight wasn't coming, it was already here. Mia tracked the signal from the burner phone like it owed her something sacred. She didn't speak, didn't ask, she just moved. Liam stayed with Olivia. My job was to follow, not protect her, just witness her. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much. We moved fast, east past the ridge, down a forgotten side road. The signal stopped at a gated lot, once marked condemned for zoning. Mia didn't pause. She kicked the gate open like it had insulted her and walked straight in. The building was gutted, charred drywall, caved beams, burnt stains, smoke rot in the walls. I blinked, and it smelled like our house again. Mia didn't blink. She pulled a tactical light from her jacket and snapped it on. Beams swept the dark, slow, steady, until it landed on a chair. And in it? Mason. He was waiting, calm, casual, file folder on his lap like he was prepping a team brief. "Mia," he said. "You look good." She didn't answer. I stepped in behind her. He turned my way. "Ah, the husband. The civilian." No threat in his voice, just derision. I said nothing. This wasn't mine to answer. Mia walked 3 slow steps forward. Mason stood. "You came. I wasn't sure you would." She tilted her head. "I've seen better hideouts." He smiled, dry and crooked. "You always had that sharp mouth. Even when you failed me." Her voice came cold. "You think I failed you?" He stepped closer. "You left me to burn. You left me in that bunker. You gave the evac call and never looked back. And now we had it. The scar. The rot. The truth." Mia's tone didn't change. "You disobeyed orders. You ignored protocol. You compromised the unit. You chose ego over mission." His voice cracked just once. "They made you the future. The first. The storybook Seal. You were supposed to prove something." He spat the last word. "Instead, you abandoned everything. You abandoned me." For a second, 1 second, I saw something in her eyes. Not sympathy. Recognition. Then it vanished. She stepped closer. "You burned my house. You stalked my child. You made this personal." Mason didn't flinch. It always was. Then she moved. 1 second she was still, the next he was airborne, pinned to a support beam, boots scraping the floor, her forearm across his throat. And still he laughed. "You're not going to kill me." That's not what they trained you for. She didn't speak. She dropped him hard. He crumpled. Then she pulled a knife. I tensed, but she didn't stab. She slashed behind him and pulled down a tarp. Behind it? Files, photos, surveillance logs, burn maps. Every HOA member, every intercepted message, images of Olivia, of Mia, of me. She didn't look shocked, she looked complete. Mason coughed. I watched everything. Your little fortress. Your walk patterns. Your bedtime schedules. He nodded toward me. He never asked what made you dangerous. He just assumed he could protect you from it. I stepped forward halfway. If she killed him now, I wouldn't blame her. But the part of her that came back to us after Bud's? That part might not survive it. Mia, I said. She didn't turn, so I added, make sure he never gets back up. But don't become him doing it. Knife in hand, 5 seconds passed, then 6. Then she flipped the blade handle out, dropped it at his feet. You are going to prison, she said. You are going to tell them everything. Every camera, every contact, every message. Mark smiled, bloody-lipped. You think a system that made you gives a damn about me? Jessica stared him down. I'm not the one who needs protecting anymore. Then she reached into her jacket, pulled out a signal jammer. One click. Every red recording light in the room blinked dead. Then she turned, started walking past me, stopped at the doorway, and said, You wanted legacy, Mark? She looked over her shoulder. Mine walks beside me. Yours is ash. And then we left. Outside, the sun had started rising, but something had set, not just a man, not just a house, a myth. And now we wouldn't just rebuild, we'd decide who gets to hold the match next time. The thing about fire, it doesn't wait, doesn't ask. It just shows up and takes. But what it leaves behind, that's the real question. We didn't rebuild the house the same way. No walls where windows used to be, no locks where trust should live. Jessica wanted open sight lines. I wanted fewer blind spots. Emily, she asked for a room with no ceiling, just a skylight. She said, so I always know what's above me. Rick stuck around. He replaced the fence, rewired every sensor, upgraded the lights to enough lumens to blind a satellite. Not paranoid, he said, just updated. He might run for HOA president now. I told him I'd vote the wise. He said he already forged my ballot. We kept the gnome, the chipped one from the garage, the one Jessica found before the burn back. Emily painted it bright blue, patched its missing ear, and set it by the new front step. Scars mean you survived, she said. Smart kid. Jessica never spoke about Mark again, but I caught her sometimes just pausing at windows, at thresholds. Not scanning, not flinching, just ready, like she knew silence wasn't safety, just the part before the next sound. I asked her once, late, long after Emily had gone to sleep, why she didn't finish it, why she let him live. She didn't answer at first, just walked to the kitchen, poured tea, leaned on the counter, like she was waiting for a detonation that never came. Then, finally, because legacy isn't about what survives the fire, she looked down the hallway to Emily's door. It's about what walks out of it. Emily, now 12, doesn't whisper strategy into her war journal anymore. She designs gardens now, still draws them like blueprints, still labels entry points, but now the defense lines are flower beds. I asked her why. She said, a well-defended garden grows no weeds. Then added, sometimes not hitting is harder. That's why you let him live, isn't it? Jessica didn't answer, just rested her hand on Emily's shoulder. That was answer enough. I used to think being a man meant building fences taller than the last guys. Now I think it means being the one who stays outside the fence at night, not to keep danger out, but to make sure your family never has to see it coming. Some of the neighbors still whisper about what happened, about the fire, about Jessica. They ask if she stayed calm, if she got justice, if she held back. They think they know the answer. They don't, because justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's just letting someone live long enough to realize they already lost. The HOA didn't recover. Karen resigned quietly. The board's under review, but there was one file left from Mark's cache, buried deep, a single name, a neighbor we'd waved to 100 times, the kind who offered to grab your mail when you were out of town, the kind you never looked twice at. And they've been awfully quiet since the fire. Just how we like it.